AirPods. Yeah. AirPods. Don't see you. Lost the wall. Lost the blue. Hopefully the sun was so good again. I'm gonna be able to scan. Oh no. A cream. Just take a picture of it and send it to me.
I had another tube of it and I can't find it. It was upstairs. It's just stomach cream.
I get it.
I'm getting into again. This is a Walgreens brand. So you know which it is.
Okay. Yeah. Good morning. I can't hear you just yet, so you might have to adjust your microphone, adjust some settings on your computer, wherever you're accessing it from, so that you'd be able to hear me and I could hear you. So, like I said, as of right now, I cannot hear you. Cannot hear you. I'm gonna actually start typing on my board so that you can actually, I don't know if you can hear me yet. There we go. And your microphone not working. I see the video working, but not the microphone yet. So let's make sure that we get the microphone working so that you could talk to me. There we go.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I can't complain. I'm ready to pass this thing. I keep missing it by 1 or 2.
Oh, well, the good news is when you're missing it by 1 or 2, it has nothing to do with knowledge.
Yeah. So
that's the good news.
Yeah, 3 days in a row. At first I was missing it by 6 or 7. Then I got it down to 1 or 2. 3 days in a row I was able to get back in and test. And it just keep being 1 or 2. And I'm looking at my weak areas, and appraisal, I'm only getting 4 out of the 8. It seems like I can't get that in the math.
Appraisal and math. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on that kind of stuff today. Then that's very, very easy because we have a plan of attack, as you might say. But what I want to ask you is this: how much are you studying when you study, and how are you going about your studies? I want to get to know a little bit about you. Also, do you suffer from test anxiety? Are you psyching yourself out a little bit? Like, what's going? I see the head nod. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit.
Yeah,
Let me get to know you.
Testing anxiety. I have ADHD and I have dyslexia. So I have to slow down a lot.
Trifecta.
Yeah. My anxieties with testing is like when I get there, I know everything. You can ask me, and as soon as they put the test in front of me, I go blank. So I spend about 10 minutes calming myself down, talking myself through it, and then I start on the test.
All right.
I'm pretty good when I start. If I miss the first question, then I start freaking out again. Like if
you go into the death spiral. You go into the death spiral. That's what I call it. Where it's just where you can't get out of that kind of feedback loop, which is, I mean, super, super common. Look, you're not, like, I'll talk to you about a couple of ways that you could combat that, because there's things you could do to make that easier for yourself, that aren't exactly hard things, and I'll tell you a little bit about me so that you understand kind of like my background. I've been teaching for 12 years. That's the first thing. So I've been teaching for a long time. And the other thing too is I suffer from ADHD.
Okay.
I don't have test anxiety though, surprisingly. That's the one thing. I don't let the test get to me because I'm usually not a high strung person. So and that kind of helps because I actually, my wife is anxious, ADHD. She like the whole ball of wax, where she, you know, would like a test would really stress her out. So I know how to combat a lot of that stuff. So let's just talk about like how much are you studying every day? Let me just get that down.
Well, I go in and I try to do at least 20 test questions a day in different areas.
Okay.
I've learned that if I go to my test book and try to study every day, my mind, I get like headaches. I'm doing too much. So like my test is tomorrow. So what I'll do today and tomorrow is I'll start going back through my test questions. I do like the stuff that goes away from me, sort of do like flashcards with it. So I'll take them all out the day before and I'll start over fresh. And I'll go through each section. Things that were a little difficult, I'll make sure I, refresh on them, writing it down because it helps me remember it. Writing it down.
And how much time are you spending?
Well, when I first started doing it, I was doing it down in like maybe 5 to 6 hours. Now I got it down to an hour and a half.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Now, with your test being tomorrow, here's what our goal is today. Okay. Our goal is to get you into the right headspace for tomorrow, and also have a game plan for if tomorrow doesn't go the way you want it to go. Okay. Because listen, let's just put something in a box, wrap it in a bow, and call it exactly what it is. What state are you taking your test in?
Florida.
Florida is a brutal test.
I know.
Florida is a special brutal test. So yeah, it's awful. It's horrible. And so here's what I always tell my students. I always say this. It is more common to see someone fail the exam multiple times than it is to see someone pass the exam first shot.
Okay.
So I see people saying, oh, I passed the test first shot. Like, here's what happens. Like, are you in the Facebook group?
Yes.
So you see people passing the test first shot. What happens is this. It seems like there's a lot of them. I always say this. It always seems like there's a lot of them. It's because the person who took it 27 times, they posted it up there saying, I took it 27 times. And there's much more of them than there are the first attempt in passing it.
Okay.
Yeah, because here's what happens. And again, I'm going to talk to you a lot about test taking stuff because that's stuff I could fix right now. That's stuff I can help you with. There are more people who are typically, and I'm going to paint with a very broad stroke of a pen. The average person who gets into real estate is someone who was a social butterfly. They're like, oh my God, I love to get into real estate because I really work well with people and stuff like that. I typically rarely get someone who was a valedictorian of their high school that was like, yeah, no, I was totally bookie. And I rarely interacted with people. So I usually get the students that were A, B, and C students, that just got by. And not saying that anyone was dumb or anything like that. It's just that's typically what happens. And then when they become adult learners, here's what happens. They typically overdo all the things because they didn't develop really great habits when they were in school originally. So what happens is people think, okay, I'm gonna study for 7 hours today because studying is good. Studying equals good things. So with you right now, what you really want to do is you want to think about how you're going to prepare and get yourself into the right headspace so that you're not taking 10 minutes to properly set yourself up. So when you drive to the testing center, are you listening to videos, webinars, and still studying? What are you doing?
Yes. When I get
don't do that.
Oh, really? Okay.
So listen to me.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. There's several things that happen when you do that. Okay. Number one, you have to succumb to the fact that you are not going to fit more stuff into your head at that point. Okay. Whatever's in your head is in your head. Okay. So now what you need to do is pick something that puts you in your happy place. If that is listening to stand-up comedy, music, all that kind of stuff, that's what you're going to do on the way to testing center. You are going to get yourself in the right state of mind so that you feel relaxed, you feel loose, and what you're going to do is you're going to go in there and it's going to feel a lot better. You're not going to take that 10 minutes out to situate yourself because you're going to be in that right state of mind anyway.
Okay.
You know, because you need to, because if you're saying to me, here's the thing, you know, and I always say this about students, like so the good thing about you, the good thing you have is that you've identified, hey, Stu, I need to take 10 minutes just to kind of collect myself.
Right.
Totally normal. What I'm saying to you is we're going to take that 10, 15 minutes in the car. You know,
Okay.
we're going to get you smiling. We're going to get you, because here's the thing too. The more you smile, okay, the more you feel good, okay? So here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? I want you to, you probably do not smile when you're taking the test.
No.
listen to what I'm going to, because, and here's what I'm telling you, because it's actually kind of interesting. I'm smiling right now. You can feel me smiling through the way I'm talking to you, okay? It's very hard when you smile. It is very, very hard to not have a certain kind of physiological response to that, okay? So even if we're just talking like this, you know, throwing a couple, like a little laugh, like it's very hard to not feel good. Your brain tells you, hey, this is a good thing. So even if you just sit there and literally smile, it sounds like the stupidest thing, but it's very hard to be in a very anxious state of mind when you're smiling.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Stupid things like that. And you were saying math, was it math and financing were your areas that you're just like, hey, this is hard?
Appraisal. Yeah, appraisal.
Appraisals.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into appraisals. Let's look at this.
Okay.
Okay. Evaluation and market analysis. And here's what I want you to do. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to do is I want you to answer this question and answer it as if like you're at the testing center, and I just want you to let me observe how you logic it out. So like if you're sitting there saying, have some sort of logic that you're going through, like tell me as much as you can that you feel comfortable with. And because here's what we're going to do. It's like taking the car out for a test ride. I want to see what your thought process is. You know, what are you thinking? What are you, what's going on in your head, and we're going to adjust certain things. Okay, so take a look at this first one and let's go from there.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me put them up because they're gonna be nuts. Sorry about that. Okay.
No, trust me, my wife's a veterinarian, so I get it. we have the 2 dogs, the 2 cats, so occasionally it all goes to hell in a handbasket here too. So
gotcha. Okay. So it's saying when using a market data approach to appraise a single family home, recent sales are compared to the subject property as, I will say D, the entire property.
Okay.
Because a rental income approach is only going to be talking about how much rent it makes. So that'll be more of the income approach.
Okay. So let's see. Let's see the answer. I could tell you that you're 100% right.
Hey.
So here's what I want you to, again, this is, if I had to put my money on it, listen, I've helped 7,000 people pass this exam, okay? And in 12 years, I will tell you this, it usually never has to do with knowledge.
Okay.
Usually never has to do with knowledge. You're letting the test beat you up. So it's all about, especially if it's one answer, one question, you got this. So let's look at the next one. I want to look at the next one. Go ahead.
Economic obsolescence might be attributed to each of the following except products. Nausea, the oversupply of small properties, no air conditioning or commercial buildings in a warm climate, and expensive homes that may later be surrounded by cheaper homes. So when we're talking about economic obsolescence, that is basically outside the property line. So the oversupply of small properties, that is outside the property line. No air conditioning, that's inside the property line. So that is not, but it says each of the following except. So when we go to except, it's going to be no air conditioning in commercial buildings and warm the climate.
Yeah.
And how I do
So,
that is I look at it sort of two different ways. And that's where I have to go back and I have to read it because of my ADHD. And then I'll look at that's similar. And then I go back and look for words like except or not.
right. Watch this. You ready? I'm going to help you out a little bit. Okay. And here's the thing. Everyone operates a little differently, you know, especially with any kind of learning disabilities. Like the way my ADHD, what helps me with my ADHD might not necessarily help you.
Right.
What helps you might not necessarily help me. So what I'm going to give you is a tip that I've found helps more than it doesn't. Do you have any children?
Nope.
Nieces, nephews?
Yep. A lot of those.
Okay. So you ready? I'm going to explain something to you and I'm going to tell you how you want to think about it. Okay. So I always tell everyone to slow down how they're reading the questions.
Okay.
And what happens is they always, so a student asked me one time, they said, Stu, how slow? And I never thought about that. I had never been saying, okay, like what tempo should you go at? And I came up with the reading the child the storybook method. Okay. Because there's a certain tempo that I go at when I read the question. So when I read the question, and it's a similar tempo from what I was hearing from you. Okay. So here's how my tempo would be. Economic obsolescence might be attributed to each of the following except. And it's not a terribly fast tempo, but it's a tempo that's how as an adult I would read. Okay. Right. If I was reading this to a child, watch my tempo. And this helps. Economic obsolescence might be attributed to each of the following except.
Got it.
It's like an inch slower.
Right.
And what happens is what I found with myself, why that helps me is I typically, when I read it at the tempo I want to read it at, I miss the word except.
Gotcha.
I miss it, okay? And then what happens is I start looking at the answers, and here's the thing, what screws me up, because again, with my ADHD, those except, not all the about, like those words super trip me up,
right?
Okay? And if I start reading the answers with the wrong understanding of what I'm looking at,
right,
it throws me off.
Gotcha.
Even if I go back and I catch it, I am so confused at that point that I don't know, I overthink it. So I have to catch it on the first attempt or I don't get it at all. So
Gotcha.
That's what I want you to do. I want you to, and let me ask you this. You heard me reading it out loud to you. How did the second way feel when you heard it?
A lot better. A lot better. It felt like I knew what the question asked.
That's the whole thing. And what happens is the first time, how I relate it is this, okay? You ever see someone eat French fries? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
You go to McDonald's drive-thru, they get French fries, and they're just one after the other. They're eating it, right? They're going up, 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 up. Then what I want you to picture is this. Someone sitting down to eat a $150 steak. I'm going to tell you exactly how I eat a $150 steak. First of all, I'm smiling ear to ear when it's coming to the table. I'm watching the waiter bring it over. I'm like clapping my hands. I'm like literally like a walrus waiting for the food. fish bucket to come in. And
Right.
I'm sitting there, and then it comes to the table, and I sit there. The very first thing I do is I look at my wife. I go, oh, look at it. Look at the butter pouring off the sides. And then I take a picture. I send it to my friend. I'm like, be jealous. Look at my steak. And then I cut it. I grab my wife's hand. I go, you have to feel how it's cut, and you have to feel this. I give it that TLC, okay?
Right.
You want to treat the question like a $150 steak.
Gotcha.
You want to take your time, you know? Because here's the thing. The extra 10 to 15 seconds it takes, that's your one question.
Okay.
That's your, like, if you want to know what the difference is between the test you're going to take tomorrow and the test you took,
Mm-hmm.
there's your question. There's your one extra question. Also, getting into the right state of mind before you get into the testing center.
Correct.
There's your one extra question, you know?
Yeah.
So let's keep going because you're getting the appraisal questions down. Let's look at another one.
Got it. Pick up. Which of the following is not a proper charge in determining net income for capitalization purposes? Management, agent's fees, vacancy and collection losses, mortgage entries, interest, or maintenance expenses. Which of the following is not a proper charge in determining net income for a capitalization purpose? Means mortgage and interest.
Mortgage interest, let's see.
Hey.
Yeah. So again, what I'm going to tell you is this: you do want to, you know, did you try to slow that one down for yourself at all in your head?
Yes.
And how did it feel?
It felt real good. It was like I could go directly to what the answer was.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. It's not see, what happens is this: you don't want to be in a situation where you're sitting there going, I have to read it 7 times.
Right.
No, like you shouldn't. Like, here's the thing. Also, did anyone ever tell you not to change your answer?
All the time. And
okay,
I do it
how many
every
times
time,
have you changed?
except for the last time.
Okay. So listen to what I'm going to tell you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to help you because I could tell you're sharp. I could tell that you're a smart woman. And I'm going to tell you exactly, I'm going to tell you something that no one has ever told you before. Okay? Has anyone ever told you why you don't change your answers and given you an answer other than, well, your first gut instinct is always true?
Nope. That's it. That's what they always say.
Yeah, that's what they always say. Well, let me tell you something about my first instinct, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've been engaged twice. I have plenty of exes, so I'll tell you this. My first instinct is not always true, okay?
Right.
My first instinct stinks. So that's a bad explanation. Let me tell you what it is, okay? And I'm going to tell you, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, that makes total sense. So what happens is this: when I present the question to you, how your brain works it out is this. Your brain says, hey, what's the answer to this? It weighs out the 4 answers as 25% chance of being right. Okay?
Right.
It problem solves. Okay? Your brain goes into problem solving.
Okay.
Okay? Then what happens is when you answer the question, your brain goes to what I call falsify verify, where you are no longer answering the question. So once you commit to an answer and you reassess the question, your brain doesn't go to, hey, let's reassess the question and weigh each answer equally. What it does is it goes into answering this. Is the answer I chose right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And it doesn't go into anything else.
Okay.
So, and that is how you flunk and miss by 1 question. You are to never change your answers. Here's what you can do. You have my permission to flag it and go back to it.
Okay.
I'd rather you assess it. I'd rather you, because here's what happens. And people always say to me, they say, Stu, what if I go back and I have, 30 questions that, I have to re-answer? I'm like, so?
Right.
I'm like, so what? So I'd rather you, look, I had one student who went and redid the whole test. Like, basically what they did was they read the test once, and then they went back and assessed the questions. And I was like, I don't want to see you do that. Like, I wouldn't recommend that as a way. I said, but I'd rather you do that than answer a question and go back to it.
Right.
Because your brain doesn't properly work it out. So that's what it is there. And is that actually the most logical explanation you've ever had for that?
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. Because the other one,
so
I'm
that's,
like, oh, okay. My God.
yeah, because what happens is people don't, so going back to like me a little bit, I've worked with students so much on a one-to-one level that I've always wanted to understand the reasons why things are the way they are. How do people study? How do we work on things? How do we problem solve and all that kind of stuff? Because look, that's my job. This is what I do. So if this is what I do, then I need to be as good at it as I can be. So when you sit there and say why, I need to have some sort of an explanation.
Right.
So let's look at another one. Let's see if we could try to stump you, because you said this is your problem child, and it doesn't seem like it yet.
Okay. This one is it. This is the one that I get on the test all the time. A 4-bedroom house with a 1-car garage would be an example of functional obsolescence.
You sure?
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. So here's the thing too. Also, my students who take the test a lot and they get the same questions, don't change your answers if you've seen that question before and you go, oh, I answered that time. Because a lot of my students, I see you nodding your head, because then you go,
Yep.
Did I answer? Here's the thing. You don't do that, because that's the same as changing your answer.
Yeah.
So you have to treat it as a question. Yeah, I know, because listen, you are doing everything that every student that I've ever taught does, which is, look, it makes my job slightly easier, but at the same token, what happens is this. You need to hear this stuff. Like, you need to have someone say to you, hey, look, this is what you need to do. So you can't re-answer those. That's a bad habit to get into. Okay? Because then what happens is people just change the answers, not because the right answer is there, but just because, and it's a really poor way to do it. So that's the story there. So that is
now,
definitely.
I have a question. On one of my questions,
I have an answer.
That stumbles me up a lot. It reads something like, the comparable property has an extra bedroom. Do we add to the subject property or take away from the subject property?
Great
if
question.
The subject property has a 3-bedroom and the comparable property has a 4-bedroom.
I'm going to set you right. Watch it. You ready? So I refer to these as superior inferior questions, okay? with appraisal, okay? So first thing that you want to understand is this. The problem that an appraiser is solving for is they do not know the price of the subject. Subject's unknown. Okay. That being said, how can they possibly adjust the price of the subject?
Gotcha, because they don't know the price of the subject.
Right. So we can't do that. So what happens is what we know are the price of the comparable. So here's the thing. whenever they say, if one of the answers is you adjust the subject, that answer is wrong. You never adjust the subject because you don't know it. Okay? So here's what happens. You ready?
Uh-huh.
And I always relate it to cars. I always relate it to cars because everyone understands cars. It's a funny little thing. Everyone always gets that. So if I said the subject is a BMW, right? The subject is a BMW.
Right.
Right? So and I say that the comparable is a Hyundai.
Okay.
Would we agree that the subject is superior to the Hyundai?
Yes.
Okay. So would we agree that the Hyundai would sell, now answer this one, would the Hyundai sell more or less than the BMW, all things considered? Let's say they're same year, same make, same model, same like whatever, four-door sedan.
Sell less.
Sell less, right? Because the Hyundai is inferior. So if I wanted to adjust it to make it the same as the BMW, what would I have to do to the price of the Hyundai?
Increase it.
There you go. So now, now if you understand that concept, the BMW Hyundai, right?
Right.
Then you'll understand every single scenario they're giving you. And think of it as a scale, right? What you're trying to do is you're trying to equalize them, right? You're trying to put them on the same playing field. So if it was the adverse, so let's say the comparable had more bedrooms and they were the BMW, what happens is you have to lower the price to make it to the Hyundai. So you have to make it equal, but you always adjust the comparables. And you basically never the subject because you don't know it.
Right.
Because what happens is that all the comparables typically have sold, right? All the comparable, actually, no, let me scratch that. All the comparables have sold because in an appraisal, they won't be considering any active or under contract properties.
Yeah, it's only sold ones. Okay. So it's going to always
it's always a sold one.
So if the comparable, if it says it's $500 for the comparable, it's going to always be increase the add to the comparable, not the subject.
Well, we add to the comparable when? When do we add to the comparable?
When, good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
When it's inferior.
When inferior, okay.
When it's inferior. Okay. Watch this, watch this, watch this.
Okay.
This is what you want to do. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Point your finger up in the air. If it's better, point it down. If it's worse. And then what you do to the price, you do the opposite.
Okay. That makes sense.
You see that?
I got it.
So that's what you do. Is it better? Point your finger up in the air. Okay. Is it worse? Okay. And it's always compared to the subject.
Subject. Okay.
Because here's the thing: if you always understand that it's always compared to the subject and you never adjust the subject, then all you do is you point your finger in the sky. Is the comparable better? Then what happens is we have to assume that it's sold for higher, so we have to lower the price.
Okay.
Okay. Then if it's the other way, you just do it the other way. That's it. Here's the thing.
Simple. Yeah.
It's simple when someone finally explains it to you in a way that you can actually get. Right. Because what happens is a lot of these teachers, a lot of these courses, they explain it in such convoluted ways that I sit there and I'm just like, I rip my hair out of my head and I go, why'd you make that so complicated? It's so easy. Such a simple concept, you know? So I hope that helped you out.
Yes, it did. And then for the math, on the math ones, because I know we're sort of getting down with time, on the math ones, I know how to do the Venn problem. I know how to do the proration. What gets me is the doc stamps and the tax.
Is what problems?
The doc stamps.
The doc stamps?
Yeah, the DLC. Doc stamps on, like, when it talks about on the doc stamps on the mortgage when they're going to purchase the mortgage is they have to buy doc stamp to increase the yield.
Okay, so you're talking about like a buy down point?
Yes. Where
Yeah.
it's
Okay. That's so simple. So let me do this. Let me take so here's what I'm going to tell you when it comes to obviously you see I've been jotting stuff down here. Let's go down to here. So let's look at this. So what I'm going to tell you first is this. The buy down point. So explain a buy down point to me. Like just explain a buy down point in general in a mortgage. What you understand it to be.
Basically, it's if the lender has don't have enough money for the mortgage, what they'll do is have them to buy the discount points and in order to increase the yield, so the down payment and the mortgage loan won't be so much. Did I get that right?
Let me see because doc stamps might be something that's Florida specific. So give me 2 seconds. Look, I'm not going to take this time from you because I want to see that doc stamps are DOC stamps, Florida. That's what I'm Googling right now. Yeah, that's so a doc stamp, that's state specific to Florida. So I'm not, okay. That's why I wasn't understanding what it was. Yeah, because I'm looking at the Florida Department of Revenue. Okay. I wouldn't be the best one to explain doc stamps to you, unfortunately. So that's why I don't want you to get confused with that. Okay. Because again, I wouldn't be the best one to explain doc stamps to you. So what was the other mathematical calculation that you were having issues with?
Let me see. Oh, one of the questions were when it gets to the homestead exemption, it asks, I know that it increased for a blind person is an additional $500. But it said a homeowner with assets value of $50,000 or less are entitled to the base of $25,000 exemption. Homestead properties which are assumed value of more than $50,000 but not exceeding $75,000. That trips me up because that's one of the questions. I do know that, and it always asks me with a blind person, how much access value is it? And I know it's $500. The increase, they get additional $500. But in the question, it doesn't give me if it's over the 50 or the $25,000 base. So would I just always go with $500 increase for a blind person, no matter what, if it's 75,000 exceeded value or the $50,000?
I couldn't answer a homestead question because that varies by state.
Okay. All right. So
yeah, because no, but here's what I'm going to tell you. You ready? You seem to have a pretty good, like you're explaining a lot of this like very articulately, like to the point that, like I said, I'm almost understanding exactly. I know what you're asking, but the problem is I do not, like, I would have to do research. I'd have to get a Florida textbook out in front of me. And I'd have to go and I'd have to thumb through it and go, okay, yeah, that's boom, it's that. So, and again, it's something that I also don't want to, the other reason why I don't quote the state specific stuff, because if it's not a state that I currently work,
gotcha.
What happens is the laws change so frequently that sometimes even the textbooks are out of date. So that's why I don't want to give you bad information. So I'd rather give you no information on that.
Okay, so here's one that you would know. It basically tells me that the northeast quarter, 1/4 of the southwest quarter, 1/4 equals to how many square feet? How do I turn the percentages, or how do I turn the 1/4 into square feet to give me the square feet.
So you have to know how many acres are in a square feet, and you have to know how many acres are in a mile. So this has to do with the whatchamacallit, the government survey system, right? The rectangular survey.
Correct.
Okay. So what happens is you have your north and south line. What's that called?
The north and south is, hold on, I gotta write it. I have to draw out a picture. Principal meridian. And
yeah, that's the prime.
the
That's the prime
line.
meridian or the principal meridian. And then what's the other one?
It's the base.
So
The
this
north
is the base, and this is
township.
your prime meridian,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And then what else did you say? You said so east to west. Those lines are what?
Or it's the baseline or townships.
Right. So the lines in between are townships, or township lines, and then going north and south. What are those?
Those are range.
Yeah, so you have range lines, okay? So now what happens is this, okay? What you have to do is you have to then break it down further. So what happens is this. What is one township? What is that?
One township is 640 acres.
640 acres, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what's that equivalent to in miles?
In miles, 6 miles? No, 36 miles. 36 miles, because each township is 36 miles.
Yeah. 36 because it's 6 by 6, right?
Right.
6 by 6 is the answer there. So what happens is this: when you're talking about the breakdown, if you're doing the northeast quarter by that, what happens is you have to. So how many acres are in a foot? How many square feet are in an acre?
345.60. 4 old ladies doing 35 and a 60. So 4,300.
Yeah. So it's going to be. Let's see. So here's what I'll tell you. It's going to be. I'm going to add that text box. So 1 acre, okay, is this. So 1 acre equals 4 old ladies doing 35 and a 60. Okay.
Yes.
So it's 43,560. So what happens is, depending on how the question's asked, okay, what happens is you have to break down what it is. So it typically is asking you for like one section, okay?
Right.
And how big is one section? So what happens is we've identified that a township is, is how big?
A township is 36 miles big, which is 640 acres. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. So that's township. Now, how big is a section?
160.
160 what?
Square feet? 160 acres.
Okay, great. So what happens is you then have to break it down even further, okay? So depending on how the question is asking it, right? If it breaks it down into quarters, right? If it breaks it down into quarters, then you would have to quarter everything. So it really is just basically shrinking your math and it's shrinking a square. That's really what it's doing. So what happens is you have to see how I said to you, hey, how big is the square, right?
Right.
You were like 640, okay?
Right.
Now, if I broke that down into 36, you would have to then break that one section down into quarters.
Gotcha.
Then, if it says a quarter of a quarter, then you break it down. Basically, what happens is it's basically just scrunching it till you can get to, because here's the thing, you have every single number in your head,
right,
to make it, to get yourself to the answer. It's just a matter of how big, because here's the thing, if I break something down into quarters,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is I know that it's 25% of whatever the whole thing is,
Right.
whatever the whole square is. So then if I break that down into quarters, then I just do the same math over again.
Gotcha.
So
and then
that's,
once I get to the end, then I multiply that by, divide that by the 43,560, and that gives me how many my square feet.
yeah. So what happens is this: if you're talking acres,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you would multiply it,
Multiply.
right? Because
Okay.
if you're working first, so here's what happens: is you have to understand this. If you're working in acres,
Okay.
right, you have to
Okay.
multiply it to get to square feet,
Okay.
because 1 acre is 43,000. Okay, 560, right?
Gotcha.
So what happens is this: if I said we have 0.02 of an acre, then what happens is you have to multiply that by 43,560 to get the lot size, which is the which would be in square feet.
Gotcha.
It's honestly, it looks more daunting than it actually is, because
Okay.
what happens is, and I'll tell you why. I work in a state that we don't have this. Okay, we don't use the rectangular survey system where I'm from. So what happens is this: I had to be taught this by somebody.
Okay.
I was taught by an 83-year-old man who would smack my wrist when I was doing it. He goes, "It's easier than that."
Right.
And he'd smack my wrist and he'd go, "It's easier than that." And I'd be like, because I said to him, I said, "Oh man, like exactly what you said to me." You're like, "Man, this is confusing to me." And he's like, "No, it isn't." He says, "It's just you're shrinking the square."
You're shrinking the
He
square.
said, "You keep shrinking the square."
Right.
And he goes, "So if the square is this big and then you cut it in quarters," he goes, "How big is the square now?"
Right.
And then I say, "Okay, it's this big." Then I'd say, "Okay, if it's this big, how big is it?" And I'd say, "That big." And then he'd go, "Okay, great, now multiply." And I'd be like, "Dude, it's really that easy?" He goes, "Yeah."
Right.
he would laugh at me. He'd go, "Yeah, it's really that easy." And I was like, wow, I didn't really understand or even like get that it was that super stupid simple. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's where you are with that. So did that help you out?
Yes, it did. Because when you put it into shrinking the square, like what I kept doing was like getting at the end and dividing. I never thought to multiply it. And I came back to
because
that
here's
one
the
like
thing: if you're
5 times.
dividing it is not what you want to do, because here's the thing: you have to realize that 1 acre equals the 43,560, and what happens is if you're dividing, that doesn't make any sense, because what happens
Right.
is you're getting something that's represented in acres, and in order to get it to, so here's the thing: if I asked you, I have a 1 acre property, how many square feet is it? Technically, the math that you're doing is 1 times 43,560. Then if I said to you, I have 2 acres, what would you do?
I would multiply.
You would multiply. Like, so what
Yeah.
happens is when it's whole numbers like that, it makes so much sense. You're like, yeah, if it's 3 acres, what would you do? You multiply 3. But then what happens is where you get confused is you're like, oh, it's such a small number.
Gotcha.
And you're just not thinking of it that way. But what happens is it's such a small number that you're treating it as if I said, oh, there's this many acres. And like I said, makes total sense. Makes total sense,
It does.
So, yeah.
Right, well, I got
so
that.
what other math questions?
Them were the only two, because I know how to do the commissions. I know how to do, like I said, the bin problems, which was real hard for a lot of people, but that one was real easy for me. I know how to do the proration. And then what was the other one? The loan to value ratio. I know how to do that, increasing the yield. So that was the two difficult ones, was the tax question and then the multiplying the lots to get my square footage.
Listen to me. You are a super, super smart young lady. And I'm going to tell you this. There's absolutely no reason other than your own psyching yourself out that you fail this test.
Okay.
Because you know a lot of the stuff in there. And listen to me. Like, some people sit there and they might think, oh, man, you need to hear it. You know, you need to hear that you have what it takes to pass.
Right.
Listen to me. It does me no good to tell you a lie and to sugarcoat it. Like,
right.
Because here's the thing. I always treat myself as a specialist. You know, I'm the doctor that you go to after you've gone to all the other doctors and they've given you foo-foo and you want to hear the truth. So bottom line is, you have enough in there. And even the stuff that you have, and here's how I gauge it, even the stuff that you had questions on, the way you articulate it shows that you do have a true understanding of what you're trying to fill in the gaps for.
Okay.
So you have a really good understanding. You're just letting the test psych yourself out.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't do that. Okay. So what's your plan for the rest of the day? What are you going to be doing?
I'm going to do a review for about an hour. Because the warranty deeds, that tricks me up a little bit when we get into titles and deeds. So I'll go back over that, and then I'll just
So let's talk about titles and deeds.
Okay.
Like, what trips you up? What trips you up with title and deed?
It asks a question, like, one of the things that the answer is right in the question, but I was overthinking. It was asking about a minor and what kind of deed would they have, and it's a guardian deed. But then I was like, that's too simple. And then the other one with the deed was when, the quit claim deed, I know is the least most protection. The general warranty deed is the one with the most protection. But then when it gets into, I'm trying to find the third one, it's like four.
Special warranty deed?
The spiritual warranty deed is specifically for like a specific property. That's the one that
Watch this. I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll show you. I'm going to show you everything but a guardian deed. Okay. Because you know what that is. So watch this. We're going to take a timeline. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say that this is the beginning of time and this is all the way into the future. Okay.
Okay.
Let's take, this is the amount of time that the grantor owned the property. It's right here. Okay. Quit claim deed. Quit claim deed covers none of this. They're just basically saying, if I have interest, whatever I have transfers to you as of this day. Ta-da. Okay. So they're not saying anything in regards to making any kind of warranty or guarantee.
Right.
A general warranty deed, okay, a general warranty deed, what they're saying is this: I'm going to cover you for my time that I owned it, into the future, and going back. I'm covering the whole timeline.
Got it.
Watch this.
Okay.
Now you're gonna sit there. You're gonna have a eureka moment. A special warranty deed. The time he owned it is special, so he's covering this. He's not making any claims here, and he's not making any claims there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Pictures help. Pictures help.
That does. So now I got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. So basically, the special warranty deed is the one that most people usually use to transfer real property in a sale, because they're taking responsibility for the time that they owned it.
They owned it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's usually. And here's the thing. I don't want you to fry your brain today. Please do not break your brain today.
Okay.
Because you're going to throw a lot of good work out the window if you overdo it. Okay. Because then you're going to get to the testing center and you're going to have to calm yourself down. And here's the thing.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to give you another little tip.
Okay.
If you feel yourself going into like that death spiral where you go, I don't know the answer here. And then what happens is your shoulders tense up. You start going, all right, if I don't know this answer, you start going into that whole mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
Deep breath. And here's what you want to do. Ask yourself, what is the question asking me? What is it asking? Okay. And then your very next thing is, can I eliminate one answer?
Okay.
Your only goal when you start freaking out on a problem is, can I eliminate one answer?
Okay.
That's it. Because here's the thing. It helps you when you slow it down like that. You start thinking a little more clearly.
Right.
Okay. You start going into the, okay, what's my next? Okay, what do I do next? And you treat it like $150 steak.
Gotcha.
Don't sit there and panic, okay? Because that's not going to do you. Here's the thing. The panicking, it's not for that question you're answering. It's for the next 3 that you're not in the right state of mind for.
Okay. That makes
sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is, look, that question that's hard that you're not getting, you probably won't get it, okay?
Right.
Call a spade a spade. You probably won't get it, but I'm trying to save you for the next 3 questions.
Gotcha.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times what happens is your mental, where you are mentally for that one question affects every other question.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you need to do that. You need to really take that time. So you said you had questions on title. Where were you tripping up with title?
Well, when it comes to it asks a title, it asks a question when it comes to the title insurance, and it's just specifically for the title insurance. I know the title insurance is the protection for the lender when.
So what happens is this. Yeah. So there's different policies. So without getting too confusing.
Okay.
Right. I'll paint a couple pictures for you.
Okay.
Yes, there's what's called fee title, which is protection for the lender, right? And they require that you take that out.
Okay.
Okay. But also there is policies that protect the borrower as well.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you really shouldn't have to know that. I mean, if they're asking you specific title insurance questions, I mean, that's crazy in the woods kind of things.
Right.
Those are questions that I sit there and I'm like you don't, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, you don't need to know any of that shit.
Okay.
But so that's why there's policies there. Title insurance, and here's the thing, title insurance is usually what they use as proof of title.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And that's one of the questions too. Title insurance is used for what? Which of these? And it gives a couple of I don't took it so many times I can remember the questions. Oh my
Here's the thing. Yeah, it's listen. You have to, like I said, you have to deep breaths, you know? And I could even listen to me. I could even feel it. Like when you start saying, oh, I'm taking it so many times, like you can feel, like I said, you want to laugh, smile, okay? Because what happens is you're gonna feel better, okay? I'll leave you with this one last story, okay? I love telling stories because they'll stick in your head.
Okay.
I had this plan. So when I was because you have to take a test to become an instructor in my state. And I said, okay, great, fantastic. I'm going to take my test, and it's the hardest test in the state. It's the hardest test in the state. There's the salesperson, broker, and then the instructor.
Okay.
And I had my mentor, and I said to him, what are we going to do about studying? He goes, well, when you get your eligibility, what you'll do is you'll you'll apply, okay? You'll apply to take it, and then he said, what we'll do is, he said, take the test in like 2 weeks. So I got my eligibility, and I called up the testing center, and this was 3 o'clock on a Thursday. And I said, I would like to schedule my appointment for 2 weeks from now. So she's sitting there saying to me, okay, great. We have appointments 2 weeks from now. She said, oh, there's an opening for tomorrow at 8 a.m. And this was my response to her. I said to her, I was panicking. I go, I haven't studied. I said I was going to take this time to study and to do all this. And she said to me, she said, what's the worst that can happen? She said, you schedule it 2 weeks from now. And she said, and you take the test like you planned. She said, but what's the best thing that could happen? I said, I passed. She goes, it's a possibility.
Right.
And I was like, so I went into the test. She goes, what are you going to do tomorrow? I said, I'm going to fail. She said, that's the attitude to have. She said, go in there. She said, and make sure you fail that test. She said, so that in 2 weeks you come back, you take the test. I was so relaxed for the test that literally you had to take my pulse. I didn't care I didn't care how I answered anything. I was just reading the questions. And what my goal was to actually read them, to try to remember some things, and to actually have them in my memory for the next time and how I studied. So literally what I was doing is I was reading the questions very carefully, and I was so relaxed because I literally sat there and I was like, yeah, I just have to, I'm going to fail. And I came out and I passed. I passed with flying colors, and they were like, and you actually have to get an even higher score on the instructor's exam. You have to get like an 85.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew I did really well. So I was like, wow. And that's honestly, like, that's what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with the mental aspect of it is so important.
Okay.
So important. So do you have any other questions for me?
No, that's all of them.
Listen, you're welcome. I hope that this is the last time I see you.
Yes.
But again, if you ever need me for anything, like I said, if the chips don't fall the right way, don't beat yourself up. Don't worry about it. Get right back on that horse. I see you smiling, so that's good. Listen, don't burn yourself out today. Enjoy the day, and good luck tomorrow, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a good one. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.